Introduction to World Religions and Belief Systems. Buddhism, the Way to Enlightenment. Hi everyone, I'm Jamela Carispi Codon and I'm the leader of the group. And these are my members. Kirby Andre Miral, Alonso Holyeska, Erica Nera, Jefferson Rebellame, Hart Rusol, Noli Flores, John Erwin Aseo, Alvin Aldabe, and Dara May Pranad. Expectation. This module expects to us draw insight from the acts of generosity of Tzu foundation that reflects the core teaching of Mahayana Buddhism. Specifically, this module will help you understand the element of Mahayana Buddhism, its founder, sacred texts, and doctrines. Valuing self-worth through the acts of generosity, morality, patience, perseverance, and insight in dealing with others. Reflect on the impact of uniqueness and similarities of Mahayana and Theravada Buddhism to modern society. Shall we start the journey in learning more about Buddhism? The way to enlightenment. I am sure you are ready and excited to answer the pre-test. Smile and cheer up!
Unlike in Module 2 that focus on Theravada Buddhism, this module focuses its discussion on Mahayana Buddhism. Mahayana is made up of many schools and reinterpretation of Buddhist teachings and their essential beliefs, values, and ideas. They evolved as one of the richest and most sophisticated forms of Buddhism, but their rejection to allow any form of modernization made them an easy target for the Communist China to control their country that leads hundreds of thousands of their people were forced to leave their country and live in exile. Since then, their political and spiritual leaders are established themselves in India and become successful in establishing temples and centers in the West, and now their conflict with China became a worldwide issue and concern. Ang Mahayana ay binubuo ng maraming paaralan at reinterpretasyon ng mga turong Budista at ang kanilang mahalagang paniniwala, pagpapahalaga at idea. Nagbago o nag-evolve sila bilang isa sa pinakamayaman at pinaka-sophisticadong anyo ng Budismo. The rise of Mahayana Buddhism. As discussed in Module 2, Buddhism itself started sometimes during the 5th century BCE with Siddhartha Gautama, also known as the Buddha, which means the enlightened one founded the religion. Prior to the death of Buddha, sometimes in 400 BCE, Buddhism developed and spread outside India. Since then, number of different schools occurred and more rationalized way of thinking eventually developed. From the mainstream old Buddhism, Theravada Buddhism was formed. These Theravadins, as discussed in Module 2, focus more on traditional teaching of Buddha. The Theravadins' main ideal is achieving freedom from suffering and the cycle life, death, and rebirth by attaining the nirvana through the middle path that can be done by moral, striving, meditation techniques, and learning and applying the Dharma. But the Mahayanists are more inspired and focused on by a greater compassion for other people and aim for a complete understanding of reality and greater wisdom. So, they release themselves from suffering inspired and teaches others how to liberate themselves and become Buddhas too. As mentioned in Bredana.com, Mahayana Buddhism origin remains unclear since the date of location of its traditions, appearance are still unidentified, and their movements were most likely shaped over time in many places. As stated in Columbia Encyclopedia, the Mahayana developed as a definable movement in the 1st century BCE, with the appearance of a class literature called Mahayana Sutra. Their main philosophical principle is that all things are empty or devoid of self-nature or sunyata, and their chief ideals is the Bodhisattva, which supplanted the earlier ideal of the Arahant, who is considered as a person who has gained insight into the true nature of existence and achieved nirvana. According to Buddha Dharma Education Association and BuddhaNet, these Theravadins or Theravadins oppose any change from the original teachings of Buddha as agreed at the first council. Later on, other group, which were in the majority known as Masanghikas, which means followers of the great or major group of clergy, differed in believing that Buddhas are supramundane or advanced on the path of spiritual perfection and as protectors of the Dharma. It was accordingly that Mahayana evolved from the Sanghikas, who believed that the original nature of the mind is pure and can be contaminated when it is stained by passions and desecration because they have no spoiling elements and their lives and power are unlimited. The father of Mahayana was considered to be Nagarjuna and Maltriyanata. Nagarjuna lived within the 1st and the 2nd century and the founder of Madhyamika philosophy of the middle way, while Maitreyanata lived in the 3rd century, whose philosophy was developed as Yogacara or Vijnanavada, that became known as the mind only. Schooled during the 4th century by two brothers named Asangha and Vasubandhu. Yoga means meditation, while Vijna means consciousness or mind. The school emphasized subjective idealism, believing that consciousness is unlimited, ultimate reality. Accordingly, it was Nagarjuna who taught that there is neither reality nor non-reality, but only relativity, and school he founded. The Madhyamika introduced the concept of sunyata or emptiness and
Debate and Russian engaged activism. Among the Tibetan Buddhism, the Dalai Lama, who the highest spiritual leader of Tibet, is believed to an incarnation of Buddha of composition. He has both spiritual and political influence among the Tibetan of present, according to Wikipedia.com. Dalai Lama the 14th is considered as a living Bodhisattva, an emanation of Avalokiteshvara. He was 24 years when his authority came to an end in 1959 after People's Republic of China claimed sovereignty over Tibet. Is January 1, 1950, enthroned over political and military affairs in Tibet. This inversion led to years of disorder, resulting self-imposed exile of Dalai Lama with other 100,000 Tibetans, which marks the wide-ranging overthrow of the Tibetan government over China. Since then, over 1 million Tibetans have been killed, as mentioned by Khan Academy. Chinese resulted to 3 Tibet and Tibetans become minority on this own land and follow Chinese policy, which includes Chinese language as their official means of communication. During this time, only 120 monks were allowed to practice Buddhism under strict supervision of the Chinese government. Recording also showed that widespread payment and experience by the Tibetans, their natural resources were investigate wildlife deflect of extension and affordability 6,000 monasteries and churches have been destroyed that marks Tibetan culture almost close of being predicted with the turn of events. Tibetaners, monks and lay people conducted peaceful and demonstration and protest which they experienced that is speech and writing which resulted in thousands of arranged thoughts had been arranged that were treated as political procedures when were taught and held as a substandard society with a little to no hope.
Universality and drop-off sex. History reveals that there are two main branches of Buddhism developed. First is transmission that traveled to Southern Asia, the Theravada Buddhism, and second transmission that involves in East Asia, the Mahayana. Then a future offshoot of the northern transmission was developed and moved across Asia, which was called Tantric or Esoteric Buddhism, and sometimes called Vajrayana. Theravada Buddhism, as discussed in Module 2, is believed as the oldest Buddhism whose original texts were set down in the Pali language by the monks of Sri Lanka. It was referred as the tradition of the elders and highly recognized the primacy and humanity of the historical Buddha. As the enlightened one, it emphasized attaining self-liberation through one's own efforts. Meditation are the viral elements just like what Buddha did on the Bodhi tree. Their ideal road is to dedicate oneself to full-time monastic life. Mahayana Buddhism. This is considered as a philosophical movement that proclaims the possibility of universal salvation, offering assistance to in the form of compassionate being called bodhisattvas or Buddhahood. Becoming a Buddha, they ended the idea of making Buddha as a historical figure by developing new sutras that postpone of his salvation in order to help others that aspire to liberate all creatures in the universe from suffering. Chan Academy mentioned it that the most popular bodhisattvas under Mahayana appeared in sculpture and painting include Avalokiteshvara, Mary and Compassion, Maitreya, future Buddha, and Manchuri wisdom. These ideal human beings were inspired by the life story of Buddha. Sakyamuni, the historical Buddha, begins to generate to attain enlightenment for the all beings in the form of vow. Then by living on religious life through the cultivation of six perfection, also called as the paramitas, which consists of number 1, dana or generosity, which cultivates the attitude of giving. Number 2, sila or morality, which refrain them to do no harm. Number 3, shishanti or patience, their ability not to be perturbed by anything. Number 4, virya or patience or perseverance, finding joy in positive virtues or wholesome manner. Number 5, jhana or dhyana or meditation, finding focus and not to be distracted. Today, Mahayana Buddhism is predominant in North Asia and has been strongly influenced culturally and by existing religions there as Taoism and Confucianism. Tantric Buddhism is an added evolution of Mahayana Buddhism, which is called the bicycle of Thunderbolt. It was said to be developed in India about 500 to 600 CE, and its origins are traced to ancient Hindu and Vedic practices that includes esoteric ritual texts, which designed to achieve physical, mental, and spiritual breakthrough. Accordingly, they practices that destabilize conventional Buddhism and Hinduism by changing their acts secretly and initiates work with their spiritual guide culture.
Paramitas, the sixth perfection of Mahayana Buddhism. Among the Buddhists, in order for them to achieve perfection, they must fulfill a path of Bodhisattva by following the paramitas to achieve perfection. The word paramitas came from the word parama, which means supreme, and ita, which means gone to the beyond. In the text context of the path of Bodhisattva strives to perfect in order to purify karma, or the cycle of cause and effect, and kalsha, or poison, consisting of negative mental state that clouds the minds, causing suffering in order to develop bodhicitta, the thought of awakening, to the highest degree possible. The paramitas are the guides for the Mahayana Buddhist practice to achieve perfection by the way of compassion and perfect understanding. These are the virtues that must be nurtured in order to strengthen themselves that lead them to the enlightenment. Therefore, the paramitas describe the true nature of an enlightened being, which in Mahayana practice is to say that they are one true Buddhi nature. Ang paramitas ay para makamit ang perfecto. Kailangan nilang dumaan sa bodhisattva, kailangan nilang sundin ang paramitas para makamit ang perfection. Ang salitang paramitas ay nanggaling sa salitang parama na ang ibig sabihin ay supreme o pinakamataas sa Tagalog, at itas na ang ibig sabihin naman ay gone to the beyond o napunta sa kabila. Ang konteksto ng daan sa bodhisattva ay susumikap sa maperpekto upang dalisayin ang karma or cycle of cause and effect, at kalsha or lason na consisting of negative mental state that clouds the mind, causing suffering in order to achieve bodhicitta, ang pag-iisip ng pagigising or ang pag-iisip ng pagigising na pinakamataas na antas na posible.
Developing the six perfections, each perfection develops a particular aspect of a Buddhist character understanding. Number 1. Generosity, dana paramita, willingness to give to others what they need, whether that be time, professions, or skills. Willingness to give without regret and with joy, and to give expectation of any reward. Pagpayag na ibigay sa iba ang kanilang kailangan, maging iyon man ay oras or ari-arian o kakayahan. Kahandaang magbigay ng walang panghihinayang at may kagalakan. So parang sinasabi dito na handa silang magbigay ng oras man or kanilang ari-arian na walang pag-aalinlangan at panghihinayang. Ganon ang generosity. Morality, sila paramita, following the Dhamma or drama in all aspect but not without thinking, working the Dhamma into one's daily life with intelligence and understanding. Ito naman yung pagsunod nila sa Dhamma o drama sa lahat ng aspeto, ngunit hindi nang walang pag-iisip paggawa ng drama sa pang-araw-araw na buhay ng isang tao na may kalituhan at pag-unawa. Number 3, patience, the Santi Paramita. This can be also translated as tolerance or endurance, being patient with others. enduring hardship and accepting the truth, life, unsatisfactoriness, or dukkha, ay isinalin din bilang pagpapahintulot o pagtitiis, pagiging matyaga sa iba, pagtitiis sa kahirapan at pagtanggap sa katotohanan na hindi kasiyasiya ang buhay. Parang ang patient ay pagtsatsaga or paghihintay, kailangang matyaga kang naghihintay or nagtitiis ka, ganun. Para din naman sa atin, kunwari sa buhay natin, kailangan natin magtiis para magtiis sa trabaho or sa pag-aaral para pagdating ng araw, meron tayong makukuhang reward or makuha natin yung gusto natin o yung ninais natin dahil pinaghirapan natin to at nagtiis tayo at naghintay tayo. Number 4, energy. Virya Paramita. It is measured by one's dedication in attaining Buddhahood. Ito naman ay yung dito nasusukat ang isang dedication pag-attaining ng Buddhahood. Number 5, meditation. Dhyana Paramita. It is the foundation of wisdom. Inner focus and calm are essential for deep understanding required for Buddhahood. Ang meditation naman ay isang foundation ng wisdom. Ginagawa nila ito upang makafocus at kumalma para yung sa maintindihan nila sa malalim na paraan sa pag-unawa at nire-require din ito para sa mga Buddhahood. Number 6, wisdom. Prajna Paramita. This consists of understanding that all existence is emptiness, sunyata. This idea is the foundation of all the paramitas. Wisdom, which means awareness of sunyata, is achieved through the other 5 paramitas. Ang wisdom naman ay karunungan ay binubuo ng unawa ng lahat ng pag-iral ay ang karunungan ay binubuo ng pag-unawa na ang lahat ng pag-iral ay kawalan ng laman. Ang ideyang ito ay pundasyon ng lahat ng paramita, yung 5 paramita, ang karunungan na nangangahulugan na kamalayan sa sunyata ay makakamit sa pamamagitan ng nakaraang 5 paramita. Parang ibig sabihin, parang pag lahat yung ginawa, makakamit sa pamamagitan ng paramita. So, yun lang. At yung 6 na yon ay generosity, dana paramita, morality, sila paramita, patience, kasanti paramita, energy, virya paramita, meditation, dhyana paramita, and wisdom, prajna paramita. So ngayon, ang tatalakayin ko naman ay development of Buddhism to Zen-chan Buddhism. Zen Buddhism started in China then later spread to Korea and Japan in mid-20th century. Ang Zen Buddhism ay nagsimula sa China at kinalaunan kumalat ito sa Korea and Japan in mid-20th century. According to bbc.co.uk, it is a mixture of Indian Mahayana and Taoism that attempt to understand the meaning of the life directly without being misled by logical thought or language. Their techniques are compatible with other religions, particularly in Christian, in seeing a mystical understanding of their faith, or frequently giving an impression of being ironic of their belief with their practice of there are required an intense discipline while practicing proper results in total spontaneity and ultimately freedom. Further mentioned in bbc.co.uk, Zen in its own world can be described as a special transmission outside the scriptures without reliance on words or letter, direct pointing to the heart of humanity, seeing seeing into one nature. In addition, Zen Buddhism was also described as something that a person does, meaning it is not a concept that can be described in words and does not depend on words. Therefore, Zen believed that experience is the best practice to fully understand something. So, sinabi dito na yung Zen Buddhism daw ay naniniwala na pag na-experience mo, ito ang magiging best practice. The Act of Generosity of Chushi Foundation. Chushi Foundation stands for the Buddhist Compassion Relief Chushi Foundation, Republic of China. It is an international humanitarian organization as well as a non-governmental organization with an international network of volunteers, supporters, and employees. It was established by a Buddhist nun named Master Cheng Yen on May 14, 1966. Was a charity organization in Yuelen, Taiwan. According to our happyschool.com, Master Yen was inspired by her master and mentor, the late Venerable Master Sin Shun, a prophet of humanistic Buddhism. Their initial motto was instructing the rich and saving the poor, and began with a group of 30 housewives who donated a small amount of money every day and attend the needs of the needy family. Therefore, major concern are charity, medicine, education, and humanity that emphasize on their present official motto. For ambassadors, 8 footprints.
The 8 footprints consist of charity, cosmedical contribution, education, development, humanities, information, disaster, assistant, bone marrow donation, community, voluntarism, and environmental protection. As part of the service, they organize, build, and operative many hospital and school with outreach effort to guide students in ways of compassion and community service. Today, Chuchi Foundation has been awarded a special consultative status at the United Nations Economics and School Council. Its role grows significantly in civil society, with approximately 10 million members and 47 chapters in different countries worldwide. Presently, it is not only the largest Buddhist organization in Taiwan, but also considered a Taiwan a largest private landowner and mentioned on January 8, 2017 issue of Our Happy School in an online academic and entertainment Buddhist magazine.
It was in 1994 when the peaceful Buddhist country of Tibet was invaded by the communist China, and over 1.2 million out of 6 Tibetans have been destroyed and thousands of Tibetans have been imprisoned. Dalai Lama is considered as the highest spiritual leader of Tibet, is believed to an incarnation of Buddha of compassion. Dalai Lama, the 14th, is the famous Tibet's political and spiritual leader fled to in India in 1959 and still living with over 100,000 Tibetans in exile. Mahayana Buddhism involved in university and developed into different sectors. Zen Buddhism is a school of Mahayana originated in China, which was strongly influenced by a Taoist philosophy and developed as a distinct school of Chinese Buddhism.